The day we're recording this is the 3-year anniversary of when we adopted Fiona.
Oh my goodness. Happy Gotcha Day.
It's our Gotcha Day, yeah.
That's amazing. Are you doing anything to celebrate?
We took her to Petco this afternoon and we had like a family walk and took her to Petco.
Oh, you're like anything you want, baby. Pick out anything you want.
So I don't know. I'm just saying. Isn't that a nice thing?
That's
what a sweet
very
little thing.
nice thing.
My little girl.
Oh.
Love her.
Hi, Jillian Benzavalli.
Hi, Patrick Hines.
Fam, I would really like for you to join us on the Patreon. I'm going to give you some reasons.
Oh, you're asking nicely and giving incentive. I really like it.
We're doing all these new things. So we're doing Patreon happy hours. We're doing drag bingo.
Yes.
We're doing cocktail classes. We have a magician that we are flying in from Chicago. We're going to do it in person, you and me, and we're going to do it over Zoom for everybody at the $5 level and above. It's an hour-long show.
Great.
We're going to do some magic. I'm also doing watch parties now. I don't know if I'm going to do them for forever, but on Sunday nights at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, I'm doing watch parties for all of the Love Has Won, and I'm going to do them for all of the Natalia Grace episodes.
That's a twofer, because we're doing 2 for 1.
I know. It's kind of a long night, but then at the end, I send out a Zoom link, and those who want to like get on and chat about it afterwards, this is not a Patreon thing. This is a Facebook group thing. Anyone in the Facebook group can join the watch parties.
And so all the chatting is going on like in a Facebook post? Is that simple?
We send out the chat link, and that's how we do it. We had over 400 people in the last one.
Oh my God, amazing.
I know.
Love has won.
Love really has won.
Well, depending on who you ask.
We're just trying to get together with the community and like be around. So join the Facebook group, join the Patreon. On Patreon, you also get over like 400 full ad-free bonus episodes to download and binge right now.
Yeah, so it's the ad-free versions of these episodes that you're hearing right now.
Yeah.
And then also like our bonus episodes that we do, they're all on there ad-free. And then like the series, so like Love Has Won and Natalia Grace.
I mean, the Natalia Grace of it all is so wild.
Wild Crime, The 12th Victim, Bad Vegan, all that stuff that's like several episodes.
My favorite part of the watch parties now is I'll be like, oh my God, Jillian gets really mad at this part. And they're like, we can't wait.
Well, with Love Has Won.
I know.
They're the ones who aren't full of love. It's not,
no,
I'm trying.
It is so culty, fam. If you have not heard our coverage, go check it out.
I'm so mad.
What are we talking about today?
So this is a documentary called The Dolly Madison Murders.
Okay.
To the west is a bank. Caddy corner is a McDonald's. If you're going to rob someplace, I would think somewhere other than a day-old bread store where you could literally walk in at that time and buy 3 loaves of bread for $1 and then not even take all the money in the register.
2 decades and no arrests after 2 women were murdered inside the Dolly Madison Bakery in Great Bend.
The general public that was there, of course, they were concerned.
So is this blood back here? That's not blood. That can't be blood.
Yes, it is. It was 360 degrees from what you're seeing right there.
You know, somebody got away with a homicide. It happens. And 20 years later, they've got away with it so far.
They just let it sit. They just didn't do it. Why the hell are you not? Why in the hell are you not?
This guy's probably walking past us every day. He could be in the store with us.
I have some questions.
Sure.
Dolly, so the Dolly Madison murders, I didn't know that it was a bakery. I was like, Dolly Madison, was she a first lady?
No. Well, yes.
Was she?
Yes.
Dolly was her name?
Yes.
Is that what the bakery is named after?
Not really.
Okay.
It's like, no, not.
Hero bell for me. I was making a joke.
Yeah. Dolly
All
Madison,
right.
she was a.
The Abigail Lincoln murders?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And you also thought that it was a Playboy situation.
Or what's that website where they try to get you to cheat on your spouse?
Ashley Madison.
Okay, see, you can understand the gay confusion.
I know. We are also doing the Playboy murders. We're going to do episodes of that because it's excellently done. It's a really good series, so you'll see that soon. But no, this is the Dolly Madison murders, totally different thing.
Our victims here are Mandy Alexander and Mary Drake. Those are the 2 women who are killed. I want to honor and love and respect them.
Yes.
And I want to give it up to this director. What's his name?
Aaron Mull.
Look, I love the guy for getting it done. It's from his hometown. He just wants it to get solved.
Yeah, well, it's an unsolved double murder.
Yeah.
And we have to get to the bottom of it. And it's very solvable. And the cops messed up. It could have been very solvable.
Yes.
Like,
it's very
there's a lot
solvable
here.
in the sense of that, if it had been handled correctly, they could have solved it.
I mean.
And it's also did we solve it? I've got some questions. I'm a little bit wait, I think we found the guy.
Is it a cover-up? We'll see.
I know.
So Aaron Mull is our director and narrator.
Yeah.
And we're in Great Bend, Kansas. And Aaron grew up here. He grew up 250 feet away from the crime scene, which is a bakery, by the way. It's the Dolly Madison Bakery.
Which is I felt like you know the Dolly Madison Bakery or something.
I didn't know anything about it. I had to look up that I was like, the Dolly Madison, what is that? I thought maybe it was a name of a victim or a name of a perpetrator or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I was like, oh, okay, it's a bakery. Cool.
The Dolly Madison murders, yeah. But yeah, he grew up with this story.
I've grown up with this story. I've never forgotten this story. And I've always wondered why nobody has told this story on a larger scale. And so that's what I'm setting out to do.
I have waited for you for years. You know, I always thought if I could just find somebody to be on board with this thing with me. And here you are.
The people who know the victims, the people who live in this town, they say, like, we've been waiting for you. Like, we need someone to tell the story because they've been screaming about it and the cops aren't really listening to them.
Yeah, it's a very frustrating situation because the cops don't want to take any accountability here.
No, they certainly don't.
You know, and it feels like there's, like the family, I mean, we get a scene of one of the family members, like, screaming at the cops. It's
awesome.
It is pretty awesome. It's kind of cathartic.
It's kind of awesome.
I know.
So one of our victims is Mandy Alexander, and we have some of her friends here and some of her family, and they're telling us all about her, that she was bubbly and happy-go-lucky and really sweet, and maybe it took her a little bit to warm up to you, but when she did, she was like super fun and super happy.
And then someone says, and she really loved her 2 kids, and that was when I instantly burst into tears.
I know. She loved them. She was so good to them.
I had no idea that's the moment we find out she has children.
Right.
Like, oh my God.
So Connie is here, and Connie is one of Mandy's friends, and she tells us something very, very important. Mandy was in a very abusive and controlling relationship.
And it seems like Connie's telling us that that's kind of the kind of men that Connie was always with.
Yeah. So she says that Mandy was, quote, beat down mentally. Like, this boyfriend was pretty horrific. And Mandy was with him a few years before she was killed.
And as an example of, like, how this guy treated her.
We walked in to this pool parlor, whatever. He was sitting with some guys. She went up to him to talk to him. He wouldn't even look at her. Wouldn't acknowledge her. Nothing. He was not a good person. She was very submissive in her relationships. Guys walked on her.
Guys walked all over her. Mandy was very submissive in her relationships. But her friends are saying, like, that's true. But on the other side of the coin, when she wasn't in these relationships, she was like the Mandy we knew and loved, right?
Yep.
Like, she would cut loose. She would have fun. Like, it was a very obvious shift. Like, when she was in it with a bad guy, you could tell. And when she wasn't, she was feeling amazing about herself.
And it's sad because she kind of has just managed to get out on her own. Like, she just got her own little apartment with her kids.
Yeah.
And we learned, like, it's like within weeks of her sort of like making that big, bold step in her life is when she's murdered.
So, yeah, it was like a week later.
Yeah.
The day of the murders, Dawn is Mandy, our victim's stepsister.
Yes.
And she picked up Mandy's oldest daughter at preschool. And so she's taking them, like Dawn, the stepsister, is like taking the girls to the bakery for a snack and to see their mom, like before they go on with the rest of their day.
And she says, like, that was the last time they got to see each other. Like, it's so fucking sad. And so we learn right here that Mandy had only been working at this bakery for 3 days.
Like, after 3 days, because we learned that she was closing the bakery, right?
But on her own. And if you've ever had a food service job, like closing the restaurant, closing the coffee shop, closing the ice cream store, like, there's a lot of work to be done at the end of the shift.
And like, after 3 days, a new employee is left alone to close. Like, she hasn't worked there a week and no one is with her?
No, because we are told from the manager, this is kind of my issue with the documentary, is that so many of these interviews are told over like Skype calls. You don't see the person. You hear, it's hard to hear what they're saying. But we are told that there was a woman who was supposed to come in and close that night who worked there a lot longer, and she called out sick. And so Mandy, on her 3rd day, had to stay alone. And the manager tells us she was doing fine, and I took the money to like the bank, and then I was like, I'm gonna go now, and if you have any problems, just give me a call.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like, so yeah, Mandy was covering, but when the employee is here, she says,
I wasn't going to be able to work that afternoon to the evening because of a freak accident that happened to my husband at the time. Otherwise, I would have been there that night. It saved my life, and it's haunted me ever since. Right now, I'm getting goosebumps. It still bothers me after all these years.
It saved my life and it's haunted me ever since. So like, something was going on that day.
Yes.
Like, that jarred me too. And it's none of my business. And if she doesn't want to say it, that's fine. But like a freak accident with her husband, like, I hope everything's okay with her, with this woman too.
It sounds like a tractor fell on him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But she like, something absolutely
something
horrible.
Crazy.
And then, but she also, on top of whatever she was dealing with that day, now she has the survivor's guilt because she was supposed to work.
I mean, and that is like, survivor's guilt we should take that word out of the lexicon. Like, that should not be a thing that should exist or that anyone should ever have to deal with.
Yeah. I don't know what else to call it right now.
I'm not blaming you. I don't think you didn't make it up.
I didn't.
And I totally understand. Like, if it were me, can you imagine? I can't imagine that.
No. So the day of the murders, and quick note, they don't tell us the date, but it's September 4th. 2002. I had to look it up.
Director, that's a pretty simple thing to just put on some on-screen text.
Like, I get it. But also, thank you for doing this. We need people to make these documentaries because the family and the town and like the survivors are like, they need this.
I was going to make fun of it for being on Tubi, but then I realized you and I are in 2 documentaries that are on Tubi.
It's also on YouTube. You could buy it in other places.
I was giving a plug for our documentaries, GB.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We were in the Ted Bundy one, and we were in the
Menendez Brothers
and the Menendez Brothers one.
Yeah. I think they cut out all my grandstanding about how they should not be in prison anymore.
They wanted me to be the sassy gay talking head in the Ted Bundy one. So I said I said stuff like so sassy and so gay in a way that I wouldn't usually say it. And everyone was laughing and they didn't use any of it.
Oh.
They cut all my sassy gay stuff. Tubi. To be or not to be?
Tubi. To not.
Sorry, I had
no.
to. I don't know. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
But sometimes you just have
sometimes
to.
You kind of
walk right into it. It's okay. So the day of the murder, it's September 4th, 2002.
Yeah.
And at 5 p.m., Mandy was doing great at the bakery, right?
Yeah.
She's covering for this person. It's a lot of responsibility. By 5:20 p.m., manager Carol leaves to make a deposit at the bank, heads home, and she's like, hey, please do not hesitate to call me. Everything's going great. Awesome, right? So shortly before 8 p.m., around 7:55,
the delivery driver had stopped at the bakery to make a delivery.
He was shocked because the store's usually open, unlocked on the front door, so he had to use his key to go in through the garage door. He just walked back in there and looked around. All of a sudden, he walked around the doorway, and there was, 2 bodies laying on the floor in a pool of blood, and he just freaked out like anybody would.
A truck driver for Dolly Madison Bakery arrives and discovers the bodies of Mandy Alexander, who was the employee, and Mary Drake, who's much older than Mandy.
Yeah, he finds them in the back office, which is another detail that gets sort of skirted past. I get the sense that that's important, that I don't know if the killer made them go into the office and kill them there, or if he killed them somewhere else and put them there.
Yeah, because remember, the manager took the money.
Yes.
So if this is a robbery gone wrong and the guy's like, get into the back room, like, give me everything in the register. And Mandy's like, I can't. Like, our manager took it a few hours ago.
Yep.
And then leads them into the back room, and then they've seen too much or whatever. Like, it's just, then it gets even more tragic.
And it's awful. He freaks out, they say. He calls the cops at 7:55 p.m. And we learn that the homicides would have been committed between 5:15 and 6 o'clock p.m.
Yeah, because there are 2 receipts with transactions that the cops aren't able to account for. So like, who are these people and what the hell happened?
But they tell us that time is rush hour in this part of town. And of course, this is when they walk us through the direction of every single street. Then West 10th Street goes north and east, and then the railroad tracks go due west. It's
the point is, it's 5:15.
Yes.
Between 5:15 and 6, it's rush hour. It's a super busy time for that stretch of road that the bakery's on. And it's also right near a highway.
Right.
So people are coming on and off. And there's a set of railroad tracks that run diagonally through the thoroughfare.
And the point is that, like, somebody should have seen or heard something and nobody did.
But is it also a situation where it's too busy? Like, there's too much going on?
Totally.
Like, how could you possibly notice something because there's a train coming diagonally through a highway or whatever? Like, it might be a situation where it's like there's
I love in your brain, I can see it in your brain what that looks like.
Yes. It's usually what's going on in my brain.
I know.
Anyway, welcome to the ADHD world. But like, maybe it's just too busy.
Yes.
Maybe it was the perfect place because no one's going to notice anything else.
But we get this at some point. I'll just say it here. Like, I don't think it was a robbery. If you're going to why are you going to rob a bank, a bakery? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Like, in the era of checks and credit cards, like, why would you rob? There's not going to be any money there.
Yeah, I have no idea. So the cops are called, the EMTs are called, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation is called, and Dean is here. He's a retired cop.
Yeah.
And he was 6.5 hours away at an FBI National Academy meeting at the Lodge of Four Seasons. Now, it's not the lodge at the Four Seasons.
Oh, I was like, fancy place for your meeting, coppers.
No. It's totally different. I'm sure they love that confusion though. Yeah, no, Lodge, but it's Lodge of Four Seasons. Google it. It's
is it like
thing.
the Four Seasons lawnmower and plumbing or whatever?
Basically,
where like Rudy's it is?
Yes, it's a little bit.
Do you all remember that moment?
That
the
was
Four
wild.
Seasons lawnmower.
And landscaping?
Yes, yeah.
That was insane.
That really was it. Just when you think the world can't get weirder.
And he did it.
And that was one where he had like the hair dye dripping down his face.
Or was that might have been after that? It was all the same fever dream.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all a fever dream. But those 2 or 3 days in particular were kind of like, what
that
is going on?
That guy used to run New York City. He used to be
America's
in charge.
mayor is what they called him. Jesus Christ.
I know. 4 Seasons landscaping and plumbing or whatever. I can't get enough.
But they had to do it.
I know.
Because they couldn't be caught being like, no, we made a mistake.
No.
So there's like tires everywhere and just like, it was ridiculous. Look it up if you forgot about it. Because there are things about that moment in time.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh, which one was Scaramucci again? Remember him?
Of course.
But there are definitely things that like come in and out of your brain and your memory because it was all so wild. Like every morning I would have this like dread of like, what now? Like looking at my phone, like what happened now? What now?
Scaramucci.
So anyway, Dean plus the chief plus the Kansas FBI guy, they're all like, we got to get on top of this.
Yeah.
But then they like split up and all do different things.
The problem is like there are like immediately the public is alerted that something is going on because it's like a small town. Everybody knows everybody. The public is there, including the family members of the victims. And like everyone is just saying it was chaos down here, Tom.
Yeah.
Like one of the reasons why this hasn't been solved is because the cops will say we did everything by protocol. We roped it off and nobody came and went. But everybody else who was there was like,
I sat on the north end of that block. And that whole time that we sat there, watched people go in and out, in and out, in and out that door. And I could never figure out why that wasn't blocked off. Why were so many people walking in and out that door?
Nobody seemed to know what they were doing or who was in charge.
Right, because we have an anonymous police officer, their voices disguised, and they're like, basically we were all just told to keep busy for a little bit.
Yes.
My job was, I guess, to secure the scene, and then I did, and that was kind of it. So we do have a cop who was there saying, in addition to not being roped off and everyone being chaos down there, Tom, it was also like no one was really even given orders of like how to organize this at all. Everyone was just kind of there and be like, let's hold tight and just look busy. Like, what?
And even the cops now are like, no, that's not true at all. And then crickets, they don't offer any.
Right. So what actually happened?
So what did you actually do?
Right.
What actually was done?
Now, Dale Hogg is the manager of the Great Bend Tribune.
Yes.
And he's like, rumors were flying.
Of course.
And the public was concerned. And he's like, we all had a lot of questions. And it was just a creepy evening.
Yeah.
It was a creepy feeling because it all felt like, why are we all like milling around? Like, why isn't anybody doing anything?
Right, exactly.
This feeling of just being here like stagnant, like the air is really heavy. Like, why aren't we moving on this?
Now we meet Amy. She worked at the smoke shop next door. So the smoke shop shared a wall with the bakery. And the cops talk to her and she says,
we usually both stalked at the same time. And supposedly when that happened, I was hearing dragging noises. It wasn't out of the ordinary. It sounded like when they were pulling their bread carts over there. You know, same thing you hear every night. And then, I don't know, I heard weird gurgling noises, but we had a lot of problems with raccoons behind the store. And
she heard the sounds of these women being killed and then literally dying and being moved. And she didn't know that's what that was because why would she?
Why would she? And of course, she feels incredibly guilty and horrible about it now. But she's saying like it kind of just sounded the same. And
Normal.
so now people are like, well, how would someone know that? Like, how would someone know what the familiar sounds were? Like, did they know anything about the bakery? Like, who could have done this?
We also, I can say here that like they never officially released what the murder weapon was, but it's described as a sharp object. These women weren't shot.
No.
So it's not like Amy next door didn't hear the gunshots or did and made some excuses for what they were.
Yeah.
They were stabbed.
Right. And so, like, the cops aren't saying much. They're not telling the families anything. We cannot say anything else at this time. Meanwhile, it's like, nothing was blocked off. People were coming and going. Then you cut to Dean and he's like, I don't know what you mean. Everything was perfectly sealed off and nothing was contaminated. I'm like,
I know.
Dean, we got to meet in the middle because if every single person is saying one thing and you're saying, like, the truth is somewhere in the middle, Dean.
And the other other thing, too, is we see a lot of footage from the time, but I can't tell if it's actual footage or recreated footage. If it's actual footage, I agree with you that the truth actually is somewhere in the middle, because it's not like the tens of people that all the witnesses are saying were coming and going, but it isn't roped off. There's no caution tape anywhere.
Yeah.
And there is a certain amount of non-urgency.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That we're seeing in this archival footage.
Right. There is, however, one witness.
Yes.
And here's the witness's story. The witness was walking up to the bakery, presumably to go in and have some delicious treats. He sees a man.
You love a bakery. Do you love a breaded treat?
The smell
I know.
of a bakery?
I know. My husband lives for bread products.
I have no word. Like
I know.
When you walk into a bakery.
I know. Yeah. I know. It always smells like croissants, hot chocolate, and coffee.
Yeah, and I'm not even the biggest like dessert person. I'm very much into savory things.
Yeah.
But like you give me like a perfect tiramisu, a rainbow cookie.
Yeah.
Like, or just like, ooh, what's that? Like it all looks so beautiful and colorful.
Or just, what's that?
Like you just walk in and you're like, oh, and it's always like a little chilly.
Yeah.
And it just it's like it's a time machine. Walking into a bakery for me is a time machine because that either means that like my parents were having a party or we were going to a party because we were getting stuff to bring.
If you could see her face, fam, it is a time. Get her in that DeLorean and bring her back.
Like an Italian bakery. Oh my God, it's the best. It's so good. But also just like fresh bread for sure. Like Ashley used to live next to a bakery that specialized in bread.
Oh, wow.
Let me tell you.
All right. Okay, great.
So he's going up to the bakery.
As he was walking up, this man came out of the bakery with a set of keys.
He walks out, has the keys, turns, and locks the door.
He told the customer they were closed and walked away.
And so this guy tells our witness, hey, sorry, like, come back next time, you hear? Like, we're closed, so sorry about this. And the witness is like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and the witness is able to make a composite sketch based off of his description. So we'll get back to this in a minute. This is very weird to me.
So here's the description. White male, 30 to 35 years old, about 6'1", 6'2", about 175 pounds.
Yeah.
Light brown or like blondish hair, had a beard, was wearing a faded black t-shirt, blue denim shorts, and a baseball cap. Like, very kind of basic, right?
Right. It's like what everybody in this town looks like, I guess.
Yeah. Or just like a guy.
Yeah.
Like a guy wearing a t-shirt and, you know.
We're going to be led to believe that everybody in town was wearing that exact same outfit that day. We'll get there in just a minute.
But also, there was blood on his shoes.
Right.
The guy who was locking the door being like, so sorry, we're closed. They were able to track his blood. Like, he walked to the end of the parking lot and then the trail stopped. So he must have gotten into a car.
Yeah.
But I'm like, is there a footprint? Are we testing it? Like, whose blood is it? I know there's a murder scene, but I want to know every single thing about this blood. Whose is it?
Especially
is
if
it
there's
mixed
not
with something else?
a lot of other evidence anywhere. Like, this is kind of the only evidence they ever have, but we don't even know if they have it or not.
Like, where is this evidence?
Right.
What's the deal? I want to know every single thing about it.
Yeah. So there's an ATM camera that's pointed in the direction that the witness says the guy was walking. It's only able to see the man up to the waist. So, like, again, like, this guy, like, commits a double murder and, like, walks away scot-free.
And, like, gets in a car and now he's in the wind.
Yeah, it's just gone.
So we haven't heard a lot about Mary Drake yet, who's our other victim, but so her granddaughter is here, and Mary Drake was the freaking coolest.
Yes.
And it was always so exciting to go to Grandma's because we'd get to stay up late. She'd let us watch Saturday Night Live, and we'd always get popcorn and Pepsi, and we were always excited to be at Grandma's.
You get Pepsi and popcorn and you can watch SNL.
It was very, very fun for all the kids to be like, oh, we're going to Grandma Mary's tonight, like party time.
And also, the thing that it takes them too long to tell us about Mary, she was just happened to be coming in to like pick up an order.
Yeah.
So Mandy worked there. Mary Drake was just a customer who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Exactly.
Like, it's so awful.
So the community is living in fear, obviously, right? There are no leads. No one has any idea who did this. It happened seemingly in front of thousands of people because remember, it was rush hour on a very busy thoroughfare.
You make a good point about that. It was they keep saying, how could nobody see anything? And you're like, because everyone's seeing everything.
And you're driving on the highway. You have your eye on the road.
You got that diagonal
crossed.
train.
You're making sure you have your head on a swivel. Is the diagonal train coming? Or there's like the like whistle of the train.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there were like 10 roads intersecting.
Yeah.
Like, of course no one would notice. Of course.
It's also, we learned there's an Applebee's on that block, and it's like you are having the internal struggle. Like, am I stopping again for happy hour at Applebee's?
Are
or
we
am
getting the app sample?
You know what
not.
I mean? It's like there's a lot of things twirling and swirling in your mind.
Can I just say something?
Please.
As like a general, just
Yeah.
a thought.
Yeah.
If we're going out to dinner.
Yeah.
At any place.
Sure.
Could be Applebee's. I don't care where it is.
I've been to dinner with you many times.
Preferably it's Applebee's.
Hula hands.
We're getting appetizers.
Always. You and I, in fact, when we went out to dinner in Charlotte before our Charlotte show last year, we got so many appetizers that by the time the steak came, we couldn't eat it.
Right. We did. But like, we're getting apps, no?
Of course.
Or like something
The spinach
first.
dip is going to serve itself. No, you got to order that.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page there. Because especially if we're going to Applebee's and you're sitting at that enormous table with the booth that's kind of bouncy, like Cheesecake Factory. If we're not getting an appetizer, at least 2 or 3 for the table, I don't know. Then I have to leave.
I know.
And I'm not even making an excuse to leave.
You're going to be Amy from Love Has Won. You're going to get up, walk out of the restaurant, and walk out of your goddamn life.
I'm going to go find people who are going to have apps with me.
Totally. Maybe that's what Amy was doing.
It wasn't.
No, she was going to start a cult.
You're right. I just want the apps. I think apps are so much fun. For the table, come on.
I agree.
Any restaurant. Okay.
So we learned that crimes like this are very rare in Great Bend. This defense attorney, Marty Keenan, says,
murders were very rare. Maybe one a year, and it might be like a love triangle or something like that. And it'd be solved right away. This deal was just wild, unbelievable, and that's not who we are.
Usually be a love triangle, real easy to solve.
All right.
Okay. My God.
But they're wondering, was this person local?
Yes.
Was it someone passing through? Because they just had this big Labor Day carnival. So was it someone who came from out of town and then stayed or what?
Can I say one really sad thing that we learned here?
Yeah.
Mandy's sister Desiree tells us this horrible thing that she says, I've had to tell all of my nieces and nephews that one of their parents isn't coming home. Mandy was murdered. Before that, both her brother and sister were killed in separate car accidents.
Oh my God.
She's had to tell every one of her niece and nephews that one of their parents has died.
That is horrifying.
That is just like Desiree. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I know.
And 20 years later, they still don't know the answer. No one slipped up. No one bragged about it. So that's also why the cops are well, maybe it was someone passing through. They don't know anyone here.
That's the thing that always gets me is that if you commit a murder with another person, someone is saying something to somebody someday. Right. If this person committed the murder on their own, and they were just able to keep it to themselves, they say that's also really rare. Maybe the person died. We don't know.
We don't know.
But also maybe the person wasn't from the area and was just passing through. We do learn that the Memorial Day parade was the day before, and it's one of the biggest events that happens in the entire state of Kansas.
And people come from all over.
Yeah. The thing is, it attracts people from the state that are coming to enjoy the carnival, but also the people who work with the carnival who are just in town for a short time as well.
Yeah, passing through.
Yeah.
It's so they don't really have a connection to the town, so then they wouldn't brag maybe.
Because
or this is why the story can just sort of go somewhere else.
It is a town where everybody knows everybody. You know what I mean? So the fact that the witness doesn't recognize the person does kind of say something.
Yeah. So here are some facts that we know. The keys to the store were never found.
Yeah.
The keys to the bakery. No weapon was found. And the cops never officially said what the murder weapon was other than it being, quote, a sharp object.
Yes.
So law enforcement is saying, oh, these were random murders. Now the family members are saying, when it comes to Mandy at least,
it was personal. I know how my sister was killed. The only thing holding her head on was her spinal cord.
I don't think anyone, I don't care who you are, is just going to lay down and let you murder him. So I guarantee the younger person had to give him hell.
And Mandy fucking fought really, really hard.
Mandy was basically decapitated. So this was a person, there was it was a rage killing, it seems like.
So Mandy's family's and she had dangerous men in her life. So maybe we should look at that. And my question is where's the DNA?
Yeah.
How did the killer not leave DNA, especially since there are so many signs that point to the fact that Mandy fought so hard?
Well,
what's going on?
They say that you can't kill somebody, 2 people so violently with a knife and not accidentally cut yourself at some point. Or remember with
scratch marks or anything?
The Candy and Betty story where it's scratch marks or a fingerprint somewhere. There was so much blood everywhere. This is another thing that points to the fact that the cops just didn't work the scene effectively.
Yeah, there had to be something there, but it's just not.
I mean, definitely footprints in the blood in the store. It would be impossible for there not to be.
And if we saw the blood that our witness saw of some guy being no, sorry, we're closed by.
Yeah.
They tracked the blood to a car because the tracks just disappeared.
Right.
So what happened to that blood? did.
And, we also learned that Great Bend is described as a beautiful town, great place to raise your family, but there is a meth problem.
Yeah.
And so there are rumors. This is the problem when the cops don't tell you anything and they haven't done a good job, taking care of the crime scene. Rumors are just rampant. And so one of the rumors is that the killing is drug related.
Right. And so the cops are wondering that maybe Mandy was supposed to testify in a drug case. And her family's like, what are you talking about?
I know.
One, she wouldn't do that. And two, if she did, she wouldn't be able to hide it from us. There was no reason for her to testify. What are you? She's not wrapped up in some big drug case.
And if she isn't there an easy enough way to find that out? Wouldn't the prosecutor have to come forward and tell you that?
Right. And so the family really wanted to set the record straight. She wasn't involved in anything like that. And this is distracting you from the actual case about what happened to our family member. So let's not.
And now we learn about Mandy's ex-husband, Robert Cobble. And people said that maybe he had something to do with it. And maybe he had something to do with selling drugs.
And he was in prison at the time.
Right.
And she's terrified of him.
Yeah. And this is where we get a really insane story from Mandy's mom, Karen. She tells us that the KBI, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, had taken Mandy's car to process it for evidence, right? The way that you do that. And they had it for days and days. And they call Mandy's mom and they tell her that she can come and pick it up. So Mandy's mom is driving it home and she's like, I was driving east. The sun was in my eyes. I pulled the visor down and a fucking letter in an envelope falls out.
From Robert, who is in prison.
So I read the letter and he was telling about a boyfriend. If she had a boyfriend, then he would see to it that he got murdered. Something that important. And they'd had her car for days to go through everything. And there yet was that letter. I almost didn't turn it in to him.
Threatening her, saying that while I'm in prison, if I find out that you have a boyfriend, I will make sure that he is murdered.
Now, how is that letter still in the car?
The KBI processed this car for 4 days.
They didn't they did nothing to it.
Right.
They just held it for 4 days.
Yes,
They did nothing. Because why would you not what?
Of course you would find that.
Even if you're doing a half-assed job of it, you'd be like, oh, I looked in the visor. I didn't see. It's so obvious. What were you doing for 4 days?
And then Mandy's mom turns it into the cops against her better judgment. She's like, I almost didn't even turn this into them. But then so then what did they do with that? Did they question the guy?
Right. What is going on? So there's this other, quote, lead that I'm saying loosely.
Yeah.
There was a guy who supposedly checked into a hotel next door to the bakery.
Right.
And he fits the description that the witness gave, right? White male, 30 to 35, 6'1", 175 pounds, that light brown, blondish kind of hair.
Yeah.
He checked in the day of the murder. And when he checked out the next day, he'd shaved his head.
Right.
His hair was still in the motel room. And I'm like, did anyone keep or test the hair? No? Great.
No.
Perfect. Amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Amazing news. But this is suspicious.
Yes.
Why are you let's talk to the guy.
And when director Aaron, he gets an interview with the KBI and he asks them about this man and they decline to comment.
They won't talk about it.
Which is kind of is he a person of interest? At least do we know who he is, or is he just gone?
Right. And in addition, this same guy who shaved his head, there was some rumor, and I'm like, oh God, a rumor?
I know.
That the front desk person at the motel saw the guy that the witness described with another guy who was holding things belonging to Mary Drake. Now, rumors are rumors. I don't know anything about that.
But Mary Drake's granddaughter knows what the item is. She's like,
I don't know if it's been released or not, so I'm not going to say, but there was an item that they had possession of that was hers. The lady thought that the one person matched the description, and that's kind of the sum of what we heard.
I'm not going to say what it is because it hasn't been released yet.
Yeah.
So, is that official information? And did the director want to ask the cops about it? It's all very infuriating.
It's all very infuriating. So this was all in 2002.
Yeah.
We jumped to 2007, 5 years later. The cops release photos of someone.
Yeah.
And the photos are matching this one description we have, 6 foot, whatever.
Now, it matches this person to a T, being 6'2" or whatever, with the ratty hair sticking out of a hat, white guy, wearing
6'1", 175 pounds,
wearing the same clothes. I'm like, they put the sketch and the image of the guy side by side. The image of the guy comes from the surveillance video of the smoke shop, which is next door to the bakery.
Right.
It's like, this has to be the fucking guy.
Now, they showed all this footage, the footage of the smoke shop, to the witness.
Yeah.
And the witness is like, you need to find out who that guy is immediately.
Yes.
Guess what? The guy in the photo, calls the cops. And he's like, hi, it's me. You know that photo you've been putting all over town?
That looks exactly like the sketch of the guy that the witness saw with the blood on his shoes?
Yeah, I'm not a murderer.
Yeah.
So can we talk? Like, I don't want to be blamed for something I didn't do. And kindly please stop accusing me of a double murder.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
So he is adamant. He comes forward to the cops. So Aaron, the filmmaker, asks Dean, the cop, about this, who's here with us today, who says everything was absolutely perfect at the crime scene. And Dean, the cop's like, I don't know. And Dean is acting like this is not that big a deal. And I feel that it is a very big deal. And he's like, did anything come of that? Hey, Carol, did anything come of the guy who looked exactly like the description?
But the other thing about this is that so the crime happened in 2002. We are learning this information in what year?
What is this coming out in 2007?
Because it sat in a box. They just let it sit. They just didn't do it. It was one of those things like, why the hell are you not? Why in the hell are you not? They hadn't had a chance to go through it. And I kept saying, give me the damn tapes. I'll sit in front of a freaking monitor like we did in school and I'll watch the damn things.
They just didn't watch it. It was sitting there on a shelf for 5 years and they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Why?
I know.
Why?
It's the security video from the business that shares a wall where this double murder happened. And then when they looked at the video, they found a guy who looked exactly like the guy the witness described leaving the bakery with blood on his shoes.
Right. And Amy, who worked at the smoke shop, heard all these suspicious noises.
Yeah.
So, but they just left it there on the shelf. I will never understand. Like, why? So this is why when the family's like, it has to be a cover-up,
right.
This lends a little bit of weight to that because why would they not just buy? And why wouldn't they look through the car? But then it's like, why, if you're not looking through the car, why are you giving it back to Mandy's mom
After
with this
4 days.
with this thing in it that like really could point to someone? And it's like, are you just stupid?
I know.
And incompetent?
Or you just don't care.
Like, you just don't care.
But remember, this guy, the one that was seen on the video from the smoke shop, he has come forward. And now the director of the documentary is trying to get everyone to tell him who the guy is so he can go talk to the guy and investigate him himself. Nobody will tell him.
Now, the director of this is like, who is this guy then? What's his name? I don't know. And all the family, like Mandy's family and Mary's family, they're like, you got to get the name of that guy.
Yes.
You have to get the name of this guy. And Aaron's like, you goddamn right I do. So he calls the police station. He wants to speak to Casey Hubbard, who's like in charge of this whole thing.
Right.
And
I gotta tell you though, like the way that he calls, he like sets up the shot and he's like,
he's making a documentary.
But he's not like, he doesn't, it feels very much like he like called 411 to get the number for the local police precinct.
That's what happened.
Like he did nothing to like prepare them for the fact that he was making it like, you know what I mean?
But they know he's sniffing around because what happens is the receptionist is like,
hi, I do apologize, but unfortunately he's not interested in speaking with you.
Oh, gotcha. I mean, is he even aware of what the project is about? Confused.
Well, to be completely honest, I said your name and he flat out said, no, he's not interested and told me to tell you that he's not interested. I apologize, sir. Thank you.
No, not your fault. Thanks.
yeah, I told him your name. And the second he heard your name, he said he's not interested. Bye, click.
Yeah.
Like as Aaron's like, wait. So I think whether he did that for the documentary or not, it's still pretty telling to me. So Aaron finally gets the cops to admit, like, that we didn't look at this video for all this time. Like, I don't know why we didn't do that. Like, no answer. And they assure Aaron, we get this on screen text, they assured me that the man that came forward was questioned and they had every reason to believe this was not their guy and they declined to provide his name.
What happens is the guy who Aaron is looking for reaches out to Aaron. We don't know how he even knew that Aaron was looking for him, but the guy sends Aaron a Facebook message and his name is Tim Moore.
Right. And he's the guy on the smoke shop tape who matches the description from the witness.
And now we see a picture of him now compared to the smoke shop tape. It's definitely the same
Like,
guy.
I'd be shocked if it's not him.
Yes.
So here's what Tim Moore says about the night of the murders. He rode his bike to the smoke shop to get cigarettes. He was there several times a week. Not every day, but he was at the smoke shop a lot. His girlfriend worked at Walmart nearby, and she was closing that night. So Tim picks her up at work. They drive down Harrison Street. Okay.
It goes north-northeast, right across the railroad tracks.
Through the diagonal railroad tracks. They see cops all over the place.
Blue lights and shit all over by that store. We didn't find out until the next day what had happened. Then I ended up moving to North Platte later on, and my son called me. He called me up and he said, Dad, your picture's all over the internet. I'm like, what? Sure shit, it's me. So I called Brickman Police Department, and I'm like, what is up with this?
I have to call the police right now and discuss this.
Yes.
And he's like, my photo's all over the news. They think I did this. Again, they're not releasing his name.
Right.
But he's like, I got to get ahead of this. Also, if you're going to get ahead of being accused of murder, call a lawyer.
Yes. And
friendly advice from me to you.
The cops drive out there to meet this Tim Moore guy. They give him a polygraph, which he says he passes with flying colors.
He was reluctant to do it, but he does it anyway.
And you know what? Good on you for being reluctant, Tim. I don't think I would do it. You know what I mean?
No, I wouldn't.
Knowing that I didn't commit the murder, I still don't think I would do it.
My ADHD medication raises my heart rate.
Yeah.
I'm fucked. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not taking a polygraph. You have it here first. On the record, I'm not doing it, and I'm preemptively calling my lawyer.
Call him right now.
I'm calling a lawyer. I don't have one, but I'm calling one.
But Tim Moore says to us that the cops said to him, we just wanted to clear you. We didn't think you did this, and we have other suspects in mind, and away they went.
Okay.
I know.
So Dilton Myers, which sounds like a fake name.
Can I, before we talk about Dilton,
yeah,
Tim is still on my suspect list.
Yeah.
He looks exactly, and I mean exactly down to the outfit, what the man was wearing who was walking out of the bakery, which shared a wall with the store that he was just at with blood on his shoes.
Yeah, but where's the other evidence?
I know.
The cops fucked it up that we
Right.
don't have any.
Yeah.
So, like, if he passed the polygraph, but it is weird that the cops, and also Tim is telling us this. I don't know if the cops actually said
Right.
we have other suspects or not. We don't know.
Also, the cops, not knowing that the director was going to find the guy, like he was fully vetted as though they sat him down for hours, checked his alibi.
Right.
All they did was give him a polygraph.
But remember, Dean from before is like, I don't remember anything about that guy.
Yes.
But I assure you we did everything perfectly. I'm like, Dean. There's this other guy, Dilton Myers.
Yeah.
His aunt was the manager of Dolly Madison Bakery in the 90s.
Yes.
And he also ended up working there.
Uh-huh.
And here, the thing about Dilton is that he was teaching people how to rob the bakery.
Yeah.
And we know that because Connie's here.
Dilton is a friend of Connie's ex-husband. And like Connie's ex-husband is a guy that Dilton taught how to steal from the bakery.
Right. And Connie's friends with Mandy, so
Yes.
she knows everything.
Right.
So here's how Connie explains it to us, how Dilton or her ex-husband or whatever. This is how the plan was explained to Connie, and Connie's here to tell us all about it. So during a shift change, the employees of Dolly Madison would like count the money and put the money in the bag underneath the register.
They're like closing out the register at the end of the shift.
Right.
Yeah.
So the plan is you go in there. If you want to rob Dolly Madison, according to Dilton, this is the foolproof plan how to do it.
He told Roy to walk around the store, find what was not stocked, and ask if they had it in the back. And they would go back, look, and at the time they were looking, you grab the bag, and either you leave or you wait, because chances are they wouldn't notice it until after you're gone.
Chances are they won't notice the bag is missing until much later.
Yes.
I don't hear any murder involved in these plans, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and it's not like, but if you only get $30, you kill everyone in the place. Like, that's not part of this plan.
Just don't rob the store. Because we learned that Roy, the husband of Connie, robbed the store on a Saturday, and he kept all the cash, but there is very little cash when you rob a bakery because it's mostly checks and credit card receipts.
And now all of the money that he got from all of these times he was going around robbing joints is like buried in a field near their house, and Connie knows exactly where.
No.
It's 5 feet north of the ugly trees.
Now, this money was, or whatever it was buried in this field in like 1995. It was buried like 20 years ago.
But what he's burying is the checks and credit card receipts.
I know.
Just burn it.
I know.
Why are you burying evidence on your own property 5 feet north of the ugly trees?
More than that, the director was like, I have a metal detector. Let's go see if we can find it and dig it up. This will get us absolutely nowhere in the murder investigation.
Right.
There's no reason to do this.
Let me ask a question, though. Were people really using a lot of checks at the bakery?
Oh, yes. When I was at this time, I was
in the 90s?
Yes, in 1996, I was a checkout guy at the Stop and Shop, and almost every transaction was checks.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
you had to take their licenses and write down their license number at the top of it. I mean, there were so many checks in the late 90s.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
I believe there were also credit cards, but it was many, many checks. Very little cash.
Right. I remember seeing the signs that were phased out where it's like you need an ID if you want to pay with it. But I remember even like when I started noticing those, I was like, who's paying with a check?
Yeah, I know.
Like, who has like a checkbook
checks
anymore?
are like,
my grandmother had a checkbook.
I know. Checks are, I don't even know. I guess I did have checks at some point. Checks are like, I'm older than you and checks are older than me. But the people that were using checks at the grocery store that I worked at were like the older people.
Who were just
the same people
to change.
Yeah. And the same people who'd be going to a bakery. You know what I mean? Like to pick up like loaves of bread.
Bakeries
are for
the
everybody.
shit.
Bakeries are a safe space. They're for everybody.
So,
but the point is, they drag their asses out to this field with a metal detector to try to dig up this bag from 1995, which of course they don't find. And even if they did, it wouldn't matter.
Because Aaron's like doing some Columbo work here. Because
but for what? What is this going to tell them about the murders?
Here's the thing. So Aaron is able to get the police reports for 10 years before the murders and look at what was happening.
The bakery seemed to be a targeted location throughout the 90s that got robbed over and over and over again. And it's a little bit strange to me that they never installed cameras, considering how much this was happening.
Like, there it is. You see it, like, money bag stolen, April 22nd, 1995.
Get a better way to put the bag in the safe, everybody.
And so, like, remember how Connie said there was barely any cash?
Yeah.
The report says $36.
Exactly.
So the point that they're trying to say is that, like, this was a hotbed for criminal activity.
Sure, and
like,
that is actually a really good point, but it is not a well-made point here at all. Because Aaron is just trying to do documentary magic where he's going to like dig up a bag from 25 years ago, and it's for no reason.
And they find what they think is a zipper, and it's nothing.
I mean, no, but you're right. The point they're trying to make here is that like it was actually a really...
It was a target.
It was a target. It was an unsafe place to work because people were going in there to rob it all the time thanks to fucking Dilton.
But it's weird that they never installed cameras because if you're such a target...
Right.
Like... I don't know.
No, I couldn't agree more.
Now, we're here with Reggie, and Reggie is the guy who cleaned up the murder scene.
Oof.
And he's like, I have to tell you.
There are people who do that. There are companies whose, like, the actual job they do is clean up after murder scenes. Like, I mean, we need people to do it. I just can't imagine.
And Reggie's like, I have to tell you, like, when I got there, the bodies were already removed. The crime scene was fully processed. And so we're going through the crime scene with Reggie. Aaron is not showing us the photos, and we thank him for that.
Thank God.
I could have used some more on-screen text with some dates, but thank you very, 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 very much for not showing us these photos.
Yeah.
We don't need it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, like, they're going through it with Reggie now because Reggie is seeing this for the first time because Mandy and Mary's bodies were not there when Reggie was there to clean it up.
Right.
So he's trying to use all of the information he has and all of his experience to see the crime scene as it was before he got there.
Yeah, and we learn about the crime scene.
Somebody went there for a purpose, not for Mandy or Mary. Mary was just a customer that happened along. Nobody knew Mandy was working there.
Mary Drake walked in.
Right.
Like, she
as a customer.
I mean, like, during the robbery, like, what a short window. There was blood in the bathroom indicating that the killer had tried to clean up, and the investigators took the knobs off the sink for evidence but left the rest of the sink.
And Reggie's saying, like, there's no way that this guy could have cleaned up enough to walk away without blood on him. And I was like, yeah, we have a trail of blood leading to a car that nobody ever tested and just, like, hosed down and cleaned.
But you would think, unless it was a change of clothes, that he would have been covered in Mandy's blood.
Yeah, it seems like you would have to have some kind of plan, like this was going to go as badly as it did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I mean, like...
But I don't think that is the case.
Not to be gruesome about it, but, like, stabbing death does not seem particularly fast. You would think that the women would have been screaming.
Yeah.
And Amy next door didn't hear anything.
Right. But, like, Reggie's like, there was evidence here at one point.
Yeah.
There was stuff that they could have taken and tested in a timely manner, not just leaving a video on the shelf for 5 years.
I'm just thinking out loud as to why this crime scene was handled so badly, so I'm not making any excuses or saying anything is okay. I just wonder if small town cop operations like this have absolutely no idea what to do in a situation like this.
But, like, Reggie is saying that the cops didn't keep a lot of things that could have been tested, like items that had blood all over them, because he's looking at the photos. He's like, these don't match with my records. Like, we don't have any of this. The cops not only didn't take them, not only didn't test them, but they threw them out.
Right.
Which is like, what?
Why?
That is not like, oh, we're new here. Like, no.
Yeah.
You have a fucking job to do.
Yeah.
Do not throw out.
And it's
like,
2002. Like, we're far enough along with DNA that we
is what I'm saying.
know to collect evidence.
It's not like,
to be
you guys,
tested.
it was the 70s.
Right.
Like, they didn't have cell phones then. We have to remember where we were. It was 2002.
Because we're also saying, remember, the bodies were in the back office. And so, like, because it's a smaller enclosed space, there was blood all over paperwork and clipboards.
Remember when you said clipboards and
Yes,
I told you
yes.
that, there was clipboards?
Yeah.
That's because we were throwing clipboards away.
Wow.
This is paperwork with blood all over it.
And
okay?
that just got thrown away?
all of that evidence was thrown away.
Right. Like and Reggie's like, they botched it from the beginning. They didn't test any evidence. They contaminated the crime scene. They didn't even try to get fingerprints. Like, what are we doing here?
I know. And then we get that former police officer with the voice alteration.
Yeah.
Who's saying that the rumor has always been that the cops know who it is, but they handled the scene so badly that they'll never be able to prove it.
But like, be a hero now. This
I know.
is what I say this like in a lot of cases, like the West Memphis 3 case, West Memphis 6 case, I should say. Like, someone has to be a hero now.
I know.
Not everyone. The old guard has to have some fucking turnover. It's been so long. Can't some young whippersnapper come in and be a hero
and just say,
and test it and be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's September 2nd, 2022, and it's 2 days before the anniversary that we learned from Kim Goldman.
Yep, the 20th.
So the KBI and the cops announced that they like have this new evidence, and they're going to announce all this new evidence on September 6th.
And it's a big deal because there hasn't been new evidence in the case in like a decade.
And I'm like, all right, dazzle me.
Yeah.
What do you have? Me and the families and the friends are like, what? Dazzle me. This better be good.
And like the families show up for this press conference with fucking lawn chairs.
They're ready to go.
Yeah.
And the big new information is that they found male DNA on one of the victims, but it can only be used in a direct comparison, meaning if they have a suspect, they can test the DNA against that person, but they can't search it for a match.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Right.
Fantastic. So, and I'm like, you're just doing this because a documentary was being made.
Exactly.
Like,
and Desiree, the sister, is just saying like they've always had this information. This is not new information.
This is not new information.
Yeah.
And now the family's fighting with the cops.
I mean, it's wild because the cops are taking questions at the press conference. And like, you know, when we're recording this, we just released our episode with Julie Murray where she was talking about approaching like true crime with empathy. And she's saying like, just treat me like a human being. Like, I just want to be treated like a human being. And that is what Desiree is screaming at the cops.
Yes.
There's certain details that we're not ever going to be able to say.
We don't expect detail by detail by detail, but we would rather hear you pick up the phone and tell us. We don't really have any new information to give you, but we want you to know that we care and we are still here than to hear nothing at all from you. Do you understand what that feels like?
Well, you can come to our office and visit with us anytime you like.
When we pick up the phone to reach out to you, then we're treated like we're dirt on your shoe.
Just treat us like people.
And she's saying, like, why am I learning about new information on Facebook?
Right.
Why aren't you communicating with us? If there's new information that you're doing a press conference about, tell us.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then the answer is, well, you can always come down to our office. Woof.
I know.
Like, this has been 20 years.
I know.
And it's a nothing burger. This isn't new information at all. You're doing this to save face.
Yeah.
For a documentary.
It also just seems like these cops get no training as to how to talk to families.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And so, like, everyone sitting here who's talking to Aaron, the friends and family and the journalists are like, this was or could have been a totally solvable case.
It just seems like so, like this bumbling idiot in a small town who kills 2 people in broad daylight. How is this not the easiest solved case in the world?
And the families are like, someone has to know something. And one of Mandy's friends are like, that canary needs to sing.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my God. So it ends, and it just ends with like, if you have any information, please call 1-800-KS-CRIME, because people are saying like, someone has to know something.
Yes.
So I Google.
Is there information?
Not exactly.
Okay.
So as of September 2023, Aaron, the director, spoke to KAKE, like a news station.
Cake.
It's true. I was like, what kind of website is this? No, it's the news station. He said that since the airing of the documentary, he said several people reach out to him with names of people that they truly believe are involved. And he immediately sent the information over to the authorities. But the thing is, he added that some of the names provided were repeated names from different sources.
Oh, wow.
So people who don't know each other are calling and giving the same information.
And he's just passing it along.
And he's passing it along. And he says that like a lot of the feedback he got from the documentary is saying that, you know, this obviously could have been solved if it was handled better by law enforcement.
Wow.
But people are calling, like people are reaching out, and there are the same names that are popping up. So it's just up to the cops to actually do something about it. And then maybe we can get some justice for Mandy and Mary.
Oh, girl, we did. What's it called?
It's called the Dolly Madison Murders.
Oh, my God. Fam, so many things happening on Patreon and in the Facebook groups. Sunday nights, I am doing watch parties for that week's upcoming Patreon episode.
Okay, great.
So right now we're in the throes of Natalia Grace. Join me Sunday night at 7:30 in the Facebook group. It's really easy to join into the chat, and then I send out a Zoom link after so we can all talk.
Amazing.
Hundreds of people are coming. Patreon, for at the $5 tier and above, we're doing drag bingo every month. We're doing happy hours. We're bringing people like magicians in and cocktail makers, and we're just really trying to get together with the fam and see people. But then in addition to all of that, you get all all of the ad-free bonus episodes. There's like over 400 to download and binge right now, including Love is One.
Yeah, Natalia Grace and the 12th Victim we just did, which is amazing. So it's all the episodes that you get on the regular feed ad-free, and then also like additional bonus stuff, like all the series that we're doing.
Very soon, fam, in March, in like a week from now, I'm back out on the road. I'm coming with my traveling book party for my final 5 shows of this production. I'm coming to Columbus, Red Bank, New Jersey, Columbus, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, Buffalo, New York, and Louisville, Kentucky.
Nice.
Please, please come and see me. Come hang out with the fam. What are we doing next?
We are doing the last after party, the murder of Joey Comunale.
It's called The Last After Party?
It's an episode of that show, New York Homicide, that we love.
Oh my God.
That we think is very respectful and victim-based.
It is not our last after party. It is called The Last After Party.
But it's called,
Oh my God. All right, great.
Yeah.
Well, fam, stay tuned for the trailer for that and our funny and hilarious outtakes, and we love you.
Yeah, be careful of diagonal railroad
trains. It's
tracks.
a bad city planning.
Oh my God.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Good luck out there.
Goodbye.
A beloved son goes missing after a night out with friends.
I kept calling him and calling him. No answer. Not typical, not to hear from him.
We were having a great time. A ton of friends, smiling, laughing. That is what I remember from that night. Joey gives me the phone. That's how we end up getting separated.
And ends in an after party with strangers.
They were drinking hard. They said Joey was very out of it.
One of whom has a secret identity and a dark past.
And it was a surprise to find out this one person, he wasn't who he was posing to be. He was somebody completely different.
Is Stilton a kind of cheese, or is that Stilton?
What is there a new cheese I'm learning about?
Is Stilton?
Hold on a second. Is that a...
I think it's Stilton. You know what? I think it's not Dilton. It's
What
Stilton.
kind of cheese is it?
Oh, I'm going to go with a blue. I think it's a blue.
Is it like hard and sticky?
Probably.
Okay, not into it.
Okay, great.
But enjoy it. More for everyone who actually likes it.
Absolutely.
Closing was my least.
Of course.
It stressed me out so much. I hated it.
I know.
It made me so anxious because I know I'm not great with math.
Uh-huh.
So and then I knew that it was like I just hated it. It made me anxious.
I know. It's hard.
I was like, I'm screwing
Food service is the hardest jobs.
The building's about to explode. I know it. If I don't do this right, I know it.
We're all gonna die.
Like seriously, like MacGruber style.
Yeah,
oh my God.